This is the under-sink filter that made me stop hauling cases of bottled water and start enjoying water straight from my tap again. The biggest surprise wasn't the purity, it was the taste. Clean, crisp, and just a bit smoother than typical RO, thanks to a smart remineralization stage. I put the APEC RO-PH90 in the category of high-capacity reverse osmosis systems for people who actually burn through a lot of drinking and cooking water. If you're filling pitchers every day, making coffee, tea, and ice, or you've got a family where everyone carries a water bottle, this fits. It also makes sense if you're sensitive to chlorine taste or your tap water's TDS is on the higher side and you want something that doesn't just filter, but transforms the taste and consistency of your water. Living with it starts with the physical setup under the sink. The main frame is a stack of robust filter housings that feel like they're built to hold pressure day in and day out. It isn't slim or flashy, it's purposeful. The footprint matters, so I measured before committing. The vertical module is roughly the size of a narrow desktop tower, and the separate pressurized tank takes up a chunk of cabinet real estate. That tank is labeled 4 gallons, but in real use it holds closer to 3 gallons of water because of the air bladder. If your undersink space is already tight with a garbage disposal or deep basin plumbing, plan for some rearranging. The faucet is a nice touch. Metal, lead-free, smooth ceramic valve, and it looks like it belongs in a modern kitchen rather than a utility room. I prefer the brushed finish because it hides fingerprints well. The tubing is color-coded, which sounds trivial until you're lying on your back, tracing lines in a cramped cabinet. Quick connect fittings make it feel more like snapping together a PC than sweating over plumbing. They click in securely, and I didn't need any specialty tools beyond what's included. Installing it was doable solo. The most time-consuming step was drilling the faucet hole in a quartz counter. If you've got stone, get a proper bit and take it slow with water as a coolant. Once that's done, mounting the system, connecting the feed line, the drain saddle, the tank, and the faucet is pretty straightforward. I purged a couple of full tanks before drinking the water, which is normal. During that first day, the water looked a little milky, and there were tiny air bubbles. Both cleared after cycling the tank 2 or 3 times. The system itself is quiet. Once in a while I hear a soft hiss or a brief hum as the automatic shutoff does its thing, but it's never intrusive. Daily use is where the RO-PH90 earns its keep. The flow out of the faucet is steady and faster than lower capacity RO units I've used. I can fill a coffee maker reservoir quickly, and I don't stand around waiting for a pitcher to trickle. The tank refills in the background. Production is rated up to 90 gallons per day at good household pressure, which for me meant the tank topped off in a reasonable window, even when everyone was using water back to back. If your pressure is on the low side, consider a booster pump. Reverse osmosis thrives on pressure. The filtration itself follows a logical sequence that protects the membrane and refines flavor. Sediment and 2 carbon stages strip out the big offenders, grit, chlorine, and the stuff that makes water smell wrong. The RO membrane is the workhorse, and here it's a reputable TFC unit that consistently dropped my incoming TDS from the mid-400s down to around 20 to 25 ppm. That alone changes coffee and tea. Bitter edges soften, and I can taste more of the roast. After the tank, a polishing carbon filter cleans up any residual flavors from storage, so the water hits the faucet bright and neutral. And then there's the pH plus alkaline stage, which is why this model exists. Pure RO can taste flat. This adds a controlled bit of calcium back, nudging the pH upward and giving the water a rounder mouthfeel. It doesn't turn it into mineral water, but it takes the edge off that ultra-pure taste in a way I prefer. In real-world use, that translates to a few things. Ice cubes are clear, and they don't pick up freezer flavors. Pasta water doesn't carry that faint chlorine smell when it steams. I started refilling a big 100-ounce bottle every morning, and I noticed I'm just drinking more because I actually like the taste. I also teed a line to the fridge and saw better tasting ice and chilled water there too, with a noticeable reduction in scaling inside the ice maker over time. The system is certified by WQA, and that matters more than brand buzzwords. The claims about removing a wide range of contaminants feel grounded in that certification, but this is still a residential RO system. If you're dealing with microbiologically unsafe water, you'll want to handle that at the source or with appropriate pretreatment. For typical municipal water or well water with proper pretreatment, this setup is more than enough to make a dramatic difference you can taste and measure. Maintenance is very much a set it and forget it until it isn't. The first 3 stages are annual for me, depending on water quality. The mineral cartridge lands somewhere between 6 months and a year. The membrane lasts years. I keep an eye on TDS. When I notice the filtered TDS creeping up from the low 20s into the 40s and staying there, I start planning for a membrane swap. The housings do require a bit of muscle to unscrew, and it can get messy, so a towel and shallow tray are smart. A light smear of food-safe silicone on the O-rings goes a long way toward preventing drips and making the next change easier. There's no app or electronic filter timer here, which I actually like. I track changes on a piece of painter's tape stuck inside the cabinet and a calendar reminder. Simple, reliable, and no beeps. There are trade-offs. Space is the obvious one. The tank alone can dominate a cabinet. If you're in a studio apartment or a tiny galley kitchen, measure twice and think about where the cleaning supplies will go afterward. Reverse osmosis also creates wastewater as it purges the membrane. This unit runs around 3 gallons to drain for each gallon of clean water produced in my setup. That's typical for classic RO. I've mitigated it by routing the drain line to a bucket occasionally and using that water for plants and mopping. If you live in a drought-prone area or want to push efficiency, look into a permeate pump or a setup that reuses the concentrate for non-potable tasks. Taste-wise, I noticed the water felt slightly dry on day 1. That was user error. I hadn't flushed enough. After 2 full tank cycles, it was gone. I also had a slight drip on the first install because I hand-tightened a housing and didn't give it a final nudge with the included wrench. Lesson learned. Since then, the fittings and housings have stayed solid and leak-free. One scenario that really sold me was weekend cooking with a lot of prep. I'll fill a big stock pot for pasta, brew a full carafe of coffee, make tea in the afternoon, and top off bottles without thinking about it. The tank keeps up, and the refill rate means I'm not planning my day around the filter. Another is hosting. People comment on the taste, and more than one friend has started filling a bottle to take home. I didn't expect that to be a thing, but it is. There are a few things I consider unique in a helpful way. The build quality is high where it needs to be. Solid housings, good fittings, and a faucet that feels like a real plumbing fixture. The fact that replacement filters are long-lasting and US-made is reassuring. I like that the tubing and connections are standard sizes, so future maintenance or custom tweaks aren't locked into proprietary parts. And having a respected RO membrane brand inside is a detail that matters over time, not just on day 1. As a whole package, this feels like a system designed by people who actually install and live with these. It's not flashy, it's not compact, it's not smart in the app sense. Instead, it's dependable, fixable, and predictable. If you want silky smooth water that takes coffee and tea up a notch, if you're done with plastic bottles cluttering the pantry, and if you have the space and a willingness to do basic annual maintenance, the RO-PH90 is easy to recommend. If your kitchen is space constrained, your water pressure is poor, and you don't want to add a booster pump, or you're extremely concerned about wastewater, you might be happier with a different approach like a smaller carbon system or a more efficient RO with add-ons. For me, the trade-offs have been worth it. The taste and consistency are better than what I was buying, and the daily experience is as simple as turning a handle. That's my take after living with the APEC RO-PH90. If you found this video helpful, subscribe for more hands-on reviews and tips, and drop your questions or your own experiences in the comments. I read them all.